I'm just gonna run and get my coffee.
Good morning, Lucky.
Good morning.
Morning, brother.
Hello, good morning. How's it going?
Not too bad. How you doing today?
Good, thank you. I gotta get my background up here. Let's see. Ta-da!
What's up, home cats?
Hello.
You can pause the recording until we
Just about to.
Sounds good. It's so good when you just see everybody come into the room. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have you here today. For those who are connected, this is the Introduction to Human-Centered Design Thinking workshop. And welcome if this is where you're supposed to be. We're so grateful to have you. If this is not where you're supposed to be, hopefully you'll stay and learn something anyways.
Perfect, team. So just as we're getting going here, we're going to drop the mural visitor link, our link into the chat. And again, we're just going to be a little patient, but feel free to kind of take a look at mural as we're just admitting some people who are coming in late. A couple of Zoom and mural tips for you as we get going here, just for you to be aware of. First of all, we really recommend that you wind up splitting your screen so that you have mural open on half of it and Zoom open on the other half. So even shrink Zoom if you need to. Aside from when Laura's going to be facilitating, the majority of the interaction will take place on the mural, but we will bounce back and forth to Zoom as well. So a couple of Zoom keeping tips. One is that in your bottom left-hand side, if you've never been on Zoom before, that's where your mic is located. So it kind of looks like an old 60s style microphone. And we ask that unless you're actually speaking, if you could please make sure that you're muted while the facilitators are talking. And of course, if you want to say something, feel free to take your mic off, to put your mic on so that you can actually speak. But while the presentation is going on, just so we don't have any feedback. And then secondly, if you have a question, but you don't want to sort of jump in that moment, use our chat function is something that we're going to use quite extensively through this. So both Ross and I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions or you're struggling at all with some of the technology, then by all means, send a note in the chat and Ross and I will make sure that you get connected to what you need to get connected to. You can either private message us or you can just send it out in general. That's also where we're going to have a lot of the links that we're going to be using throughout the session. Okay, so that's sort of the Zoom side of things. Once again, just for those who just came in, I'm going to put our mural link back in. This is where we're going to be doing most of our work. And so I invite you to click on the link in the chat if you haven't already and make your way over to our mural platform where we just have a couple of tips for you so that you get a little more comfortable if this is your first time using mural. We see a lot of familiar names from other sessions as well. So I'm sure many of you have actually used mural, but the biggest tip for anyone who hasn't, and even for those who have and maybe forgot, is the zooming in and out feature. So this is what makes mural, this digital whiteboard, this visual collaboration space so amazing, is that you can actually zoom in and out of the different sections of mural. And it's really critical that we actually zoom in and out rather than making our sticky notes huge so that we can read them. So a couple of ways that you can actually do that. One is if you're using a mouse, you can actually use the tracking ball on the top and you can go up and down. That'll zoom you in and out. If you don't have a mouse, you can also, there's a keyboard shortcut. So you can hit Control or if you're on a PC or Command if you're on a Mac, and then use your plus or minus. And your plus with Command is obviously going to bring you closer in. It's going to zoom you in. Your minus is going to zoom you back out. And then finally, if you're not comfortable using the keyboard or you don't have a mouse, just know that on the bottom right hand of everybody's mural that you can see on your screen, there's actually a little slider there. And you can go over that slider and zoom in and out by moving that slider back and forth. Okay, so that's our slide in and out. The other thing that we always like to say is, if you're comfortable using video and you have the bandwidth to be able to do it, then please put it on. We love seeing students' faces. We love seeing our partners' faces. But again, if you're not comfortable doing that or you don't have the bandwidth to do it, no problem at all. And of course, you can always engage us in the chat at any time. And so just looking at the mural, what we want to kind of direct everybody towards is on the right-hand side of the mural, you'll hopefully see an outline. And if you don't see an outline, you have to click the little TV screen. And that is a great little tip for being able to navigate where you want to go. And so the very first section where we're going to go is our step 1. And so if you click on step 1, it's actually going to bring you to the spot that we want you to start off this mural in. Now, one other tip around mural in terms of putting a sticky note on, because this is where the interaction actually happens, is that we want you to be able to put your voice, your thoughts in these different sections. And so our first warm-up question, I'll toss to our facilitator to walk us through. But in order to actually comment and put your sticky note in, there's 2 ways to do that. One, the simplest way is just double click beside any other sticky note. And if you click on it once, you can type inside it. Again, a reminder that if it's too small for you to see, make sure you zoom in. Don't make the sticky note bigger, zoom in to actually see it. And then the second way is along the left-hand side of your mural, right below the red M at the top left corner, you can see a dog-eared square. And if you click that, that actually gives you the option then to pull in any color or size of sticky note that you want as well. And so with those tips already set, I hope you have a great, great session, and I'll pass you over to our most amazing facilitator in the world, Laura Koza.
Oh, what an introduction. Now I have to be amazing. Welcome, everybody. We're so grateful that you chose to be here in this space with us today. My name is Laura Koza. I work for the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation. My role at the center is I have the pleasure to inspire and empower students, staff, and faculty to recognize how they are makers, and then how to build up the skills and mindsets of a change maker. So today we are here talking about the introduction to human-centered design. Before I go too deep into it, I do want to introduce my 2 wonderful co-pilots. Quentin Evans is the one who just spoke. He also works for the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation. We've got Ross McIntyre here on my right, not sure how it shows up for you. He also works for the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation, and we're so grateful to have both of these amazing gentlemen here to help and guide us through this fantastic journey. So as we get started, I am going to ask you, you'll see one of those first questions there is, what do you think changemaking is? So this is an important question because we talk about changemaking as this sort of big, exciting concept, and we try and pull people into it, but we really want to hear, what do you think changemaking is and how does it show up for you? I see a couple people coming in. To make the same mistakes over and over. Oh, to not make the same mistakes. That makes more sense. Yeah, amazing. To sort of look at how we are doing things and try and shift and change our own patterns to not make the same mistakes over and over. What else do we have? Yeah, making positive change. It's fantastic. You guys know this stuff. This is amazing. Change making helps people learn different things. Fantastic. It's about using data to tell simple and meaningful stories. Huge. We've got someone, I think, writing Black Friday. Fantastic. Yeah, so we at the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation define changemaking as someone who desires change in the world and gathers the knowledge and resources to make that change happen. What I like to offer, what I like to invite around changemaking is it's just about really wanting to make positive change, whether that's making positive change on someone else's day and really having a huge impact and influence on another person's day, or making that global change like some of those amazing leaders we have out there, and then taking action on it. So those are sort of the 2 secret sauce components. And the reason why I like to start this workshop with a basic understanding of changemaking is changemaking is also about looking at big problems and trying to understand solutions to those problems and how can we offer those solutions to those problems in a way that really sort of meets the needs of the people that are experiencing them. So that in a nutshell is what this workshop is about. And that in a nutshell is what we're going to talk about as human-centered design thinking. So throughout this session, a couple little things I'm going to offer. I'm going to do something called summon you. So when I summon you, you will all see on my screen exactly what I'm seeing. So I have just summoned you into different spaces in the mural. This is a great tool because it helps me be able to talk to different sections, and it helps you sort of see what I'm seeing and give you a little bit of a visual to what we're talking to. Another sort of off tip I will offer you in the Zoom world is in the bottom right, you'll see this little button called reactions. So here you can see things like a clappy face and like a thumbs up. I really like to use this, this tool in Zoom just as a quick check-in. So for people who maybe are really excited and want to engage, there's lots of ways we can do that via chat, via microphone, via mural. For people who just want to sort of simply nod along, it's a great tool to sort of let me know that you're there, let me know that you're listening, let me know that you're engaged. That's a little bit lower risk. So as we go along, if you could use those reactions, I would really appreciate it because it gives me that feedback that you guys are still there. Yeah, look at that, so good. Gives me that feedback that you guys are still there and engaged along the way. So fantastic, I love when people are finding these things. Yeah, so those are sort of a couple little tips. The only other tip I'll give you before we dive super into mural is if you are finding that you're on mural and you're just like a little bit overwhelmed with everybody's cursors going everywhere and everything on the screen, you can click your own head. So you might be an anonymous penguin or hippo or whatever that might be. Click yourself. And then when you do that, you'll see a tip that says, don't show me cursors. When you click that, everybody else's cursors will hide. And it's a little bit less intimidating to play in mural when you do that. So just a few little tips I'm gonna offer you as we continue through. Everyone feel good, comfortable in this space before we continue on? Any questions? Yeah, perfect. Fantastic. Wonderful. So today our topic is this concept of human-centered design thinking. So we at the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation, also known as the CCSI. So if you hear anybody talk about CCSI, that's the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation. We love to use these big words. And we love to sort of bring these concepts to you and get really excited by them. And my job today is to help you sort of debunk some of this stuff so it makes really clear sense to you and hopefully answer some of your questions. So human-centered design thinking is simply just thinking about a problem from the needs and perspective of the person who's experiencing that problem. So this sounds really simple, but it can be pretty complicated because we as humans are pretty complicated and we sort of inherently bring our own perspectives. We inherently bring our own understandings, our own history, our own thought patterns, our own solutions into these things. So human-centered design thinking is a methodology. That helps us sort of debunk that and put the people that are experiencing the problem at the center of the solution. So a couple steps that we like to use in this process is first we talk about empathizing. So in order to see, I'm going to summon everybody again. In order to understand the person who is experiencing that problem, we need to empathize with them. Empathy is a really big and important topic and actually one that we completely debunk and do an entire workshop just on empathy to really understand what that looks like. So I won't dive too deeply into that, but it's really taking that understanding of how do we see this solution from that person's perspective while also trying to stay out of judgment, communicate the emotions, recognize the emotions, and really the secret to empathy is recognizing someone else's perspective as their truth. So that's a really important piece. Then we need to look to define the problem. The problem might be completely different than we thought or expected it to be. Once we have an understanding and a definition, a new definition of that problem, we're able to ideate, we're able to come up with an idea, Once we have our idea, we're then able to prototype and test it. So this is just a basic overview. And what I would like to offer and invite now is I'm going to share a video with you. So in a minute, I'm going to share my screen with you. If there's any tech hiccups, please yell at me via chat. I will sort of rely on my two co-pilots and their personal thumbs up to make sure that everything is working. This is a bit of a longer video than I typically like to show in these sessions, but I really invite you to just sort of sit back, watch it, let it soak in, and ask yourself the question, what are the needs of the end user and how does human-centered design thinking show up as you continue to watch this video? And yeah, just really kind of soak it in. Hang tight as I attempt to figure out how to share this with very little hiccups. Can everyone see my screen? Awesome. I'm going to hit play. Can I get a thumbs up from Q and Ross if you can hear it as I hit play? Okay.
Now is your turn to dare.
I didn't do the ads first.
I've got a great idea. It's going to change the world. It's fantastic. It's going to blow your mind. It's my beautiful baby. Here's the thing. Everybody loves a beautiful baby. I mean, I was a beautiful baby. Here's me and my dad a couple days after I was born. So in the world of product design, the beautiful baby is like the concept car. It's the knockout. You know, you see it, you go, oh my God, I'd buy that in a second. So why is it that this year's new cars look pretty much exactly like last year's new cars? What went wrong between the design studio and the factory? See, today I don't want to talk about beautiful babies. I want to talk about the awkward adolescence of design. Those sort of dorky teenage years where you're trying to figure out how the world works. I'm going to start with an example from some work that we did on newborn health. So here's the problem. 4 million babies around the world, mostly in developing countries, die every year before their first birthday, even before their first month of life. It turns out half of those kids, or about 1.8 million newborns around the world, would make it if you could just keep them warm for the first 3 days, maybe the first week. So this is a newborn intensive care unit in Kathmandu, Nepal. All of these kids in blankets belong in incubators, something like this. So this is a donated Japanese atom incubator that we found in a NICU in Kathmandu. This is what we want. Probably what happened is a hospital in Japan upgraded their equipment and donated their old stuff to Nepal. The problem is, without technicians, without spare parts, donations like this very quickly turn into junk. So this seemed like a problem that we could do something about. I mean, keeping a baby warm for a week, that's not rocket science. So we got started. We partnered with a leading medical research institution here in Boston. We conducted months of user research overseas, trying to think like designers, human-centered design. Let's figure out what people want. We killed thousands of Post-it notes. We made dozens of prototypes to get to this. So this is the Neo-Nurture Infant Incubator. And this has a lot of smarts built into it. And we felt great. So the idea here is, unlike the concept car, we want to marry something beautiful with something that actually works. And our idea is that this design would inspire manufacturers and other people of influence to sort of take this model and run with it. Here's the bad news. The only baby ever actually put inside the Neo-Nurture incubator was this kid during a Time magazine photo shoot. So, recognition is fantastic. We want design to get out, for people to see it. It won lots of awards, but it felt like a booby prize. I mean, we wanted to make beautiful things that are going to make the world a better place, And I don't think this kid was even in it long enough to get warm. So it turns out that design for inspiration doesn't really, I guess what I would say is that for us, for what I want to do, it's either too slow or it just doesn't work. It's ineffective. So really, I want to design for outcomes. I don't want to make beautiful stuff. I want to make the world a better place. So when we were designing Neo-Nurture, we paid a lot of attention to the people who are going to use this thing. For example, poor families, rural doctors, overloaded nurses, even repair technicians. We thought we had all our bases covered. We'd done everything right. Well, it turns out there's this whole constellation of people who have to be involved in a product for it to be successful. Manufacturing, financing, distribution, regulation. Michael Freer passes, you have to figure out who will choose, use, and pay the dues for a product like this. And I have to ask the question, you know, VCs always ask, well, sir, what is your business and who is your customer? Who is our customer? Well, here's an example. This is a Bangladeshi hospital director outside his facility. It turns out he doesn't buy any of his equipment. Those decisions are made by the Ministry of Health or by foreign donors, and it just kind of shows up. Similarly, here's a multinational medical device manufacturer. Turns out they got to fish where the fish are. So it turns out that in emerging markets, where the fish are sort of the emerging middle class of these countries, diseases of affluence, heart disease, infertility. So turns out that design for outcomes in one aspect really means thinking about design for manufacturing and distribution. Okay, that was an important lesson. Second, we took that lesson and tried to push it into our next project. So we started by finding a manufacturer, an organization called MTTS in Vietnam that manufactures newborn care technologies for Southeast Asia. Our other partner is East Meets West. This is an American foundation that distributes that technology to poor hospitals around that region. So we started with them saying, well, what do you want? What's a problem you want to solve? And they said, well, let's work on newborn jaundice. So this is another one of these like mind-boggling global problems. So jaundice affects 2/3 of newborns around the world. Of those newborns, 1 in 10, roughly, if it's not treated, the jaundice gets so severe that it leads to either lifelong disability or the kids could even die. There's one way to treat jaundice, and that's what's called an exchange transfusion. So as you can imagine, that's expensive and a little bit dangerous. There is another cure. It's very technological, it's very complex, a little daunting. You got to shine blue light on the kid. Bright blue light on as much of the skin as you can cover. How is this a hard problem? So you know, I went to MIT. You know, okay, we'll figure that out. So here's an example. This is an overhead phototherapy device that's designed for American hospitals. And here's how it's supposed to be used. So it's over the baby, illuminating it to signal patient. Take it out of an American hospital, send it overseas to a crowded facility in Asia. Here's how it's actually used. The effectiveness of phototherapy is a function of light intensity. So these dark blue squares show you where it's effective phototherapy. Here's what it looks like under actual use. So those kids on the edges aren't actually receiving effective phototherapy, but without training, without some kind of light meter, how would you know? We see other examples of problems like this. So here's the neonatal intensive care unit where moms come in to visit their babies. And keep in mind that mom maybe just had a C-section. Okay, so that's already kind of a bummer. Mom's visiting her kid. She sees her baby naked, lying under some blue lights, looking kind of vulnerable. It's not uncommon for mom to put a blanket over the baby. From a phototherapy standpoint, maybe not the best behavior. In fact, that sounds kind of dumb, except what we've learned is that there's no such thing as a dumb user, really, is what we've learned. They're only dumb products. We have to think like existentialists. It's not the painting we would have painted, it's the painting that we actually painted. It's the use designed for actual use. How are people actually going to use this? So similarly, when we think about our partner MTTS, they've made some amazing technologies for treating newborn illnesses. So here's an overhead warmer and a CPAP. They're inexpensive, really rugged. They treated 50,000 kids in Vietnam with this technology. But here's the problem. Every doctor in the world, every hospital administrator has seen TV, you know, curse those, whatever, ER reruns. Turns out they all know what a medical device is supposed to look like. They want Buck Rogers. They don't want effective. It sounds crazy, it sounds dumb, but there are actually hospitals that would rather have no equipment than something that looks cheap and crummy. So again, if we want people to trust the device, it has to look trustworthy. So thinking about outcomes, turns out appearances matter. So we took all that information together, we tried this time to get it right, and here's what we developed. So this is the Firefly phototherapy device, except this time, we didn't stop at the concept car. So from the very beginning, we started by talking to manufacturers. Like, our goal is to make a state-of-the-art product that our partner MTTS can actually manufacture. So our goal is to study how they work, the resources that they have access to, so that they can make this product. So that's the design for manufacture question. When we think about actual use, you'll notice that Firefly has a single bassinet. it only fits a single baby. And the idea here is that it's obvious how you ought to use this device. If you try to put more than one kid in, you're kind of stacking them on top of each other. So the idea here is if we say you want to make it hard to use wrong. In other words, you want to make the right way to use it, the easiest way to use it. Another example, it's, again, silly mom. You know, silly mom thinks her baby looks cold, wants to put a blanket over the baby. Well, that's why we have lights above and below the baby in Firefly. So if mom does put a blanket over the baby, still receiving effective phototherapy from below. Last story here, I've got a friend in India who told me that you haven't really tested a piece of electronic technology for distribution in Asia until you've trained a cockroach to climb in and pee on every single little component on the inside. You think it's funny. I had a laptop in the P-score, and the screen had all these dead pixels on it. And one day I looked at it, they're all dead ants. This sort of got into my laptop and perished those poor ants. So with Firefly, what we did is, the problem is electronics get hot, and you have to put in vents or fans to keep them cool in most products. We decided that, okay, I can't put a do not enter sign next to the vent, you know, this kind of thing. We actually got rid of all that stuff. So Firefly is totally sealed. These are the kind of lessons, I mean, as awkward as it was to be a pretty goofy teenager, much worse to be a frustrated designer. So thinking about, okay, what I really want to do is change the world. I have to pay attention to manufacturing and distribution. I have to pay attention to how people are actually going to use a device. I actually have to pay attention. Really, there's no excuse for failure. I have to think like an existentialist. I have to accept that there are no dumb users. There's only dumb products. We have to ask ourselves hard questions. Are we designing for the world that we want? Are we designing for the world that we have? Are we designing for the world that's coming, whether we're ready or not? I got into this business designing products. I've since learned that if you really want to make a difference in the world, you have to design outcomes. And that's design that matters. Thank you.
And we're back. If I can figure out how to turn this. There we go. Amazing. So did you guys enjoy that video? Reactions, any? Cool. We got a heart one. I love that. That's awesome. So what I really love about this video is it's a real life example of using that human-centered design thinking process. Even though he's not explicitly going through each step, you can tell just through his experience and through him sharing his experience, there's so much that he learned, and he did actually go through each step of this process. Which to me is just always, it's always so refreshing when we are able to learn a concept and we are able to sort of think about a new methodology, and then to be able to see a real world example of how it's used, I think is a really refreshing piece. So what I'm going to invite everybody to do, I see I've got a few people still following me. I'm going to pull everybody else over. So I always say this because it's so exciting. We come to this breakout room, there's Post-it notes everywhere. Everyone wants to just sort of grab one and click it. I encourage you not to, because this worksheet will actually be a worksheet for someone else. So it's one of those, like, if you guys were in grade 3, I might say, hands off your mouse. I can trust that you are not, and we'll leave this worksheet clean for the group that is going to engage in it next. My invitation for you is, in a moment, we are going to send you into breakout rooms. You're going to be sent with about 4 to 5 of your colleagues and actually just be able to debrief the video you just watched. I want you to have a good conversation about what happened, what were some key insights you learned, and more importantly, which things happened at which stage of the human-centered design thinking process. So was there something that came up for you that was clearly a time that Timothy empathized with the problem, was clearly a time that he took the time to talk to the people who are experiencing the problem? Or what about define, ideate, prototype, and test? So sort of after watching that video, it's that gut reactions to at which stage did he pull out each piece of this process, and what are the examples of doing that? When you have that conversation, we are going to ask you to come back. We will have a little bit of a share back and a debrief, but only for those who want to share. So we're not going to go through each room and say, hey, everyone, tell us your insights. But we will hold some space for people who really had amazing insights and want to share their experience. So please, if you have something really groundbreaking that you want to share, hold that as you're talking in that conversation so you feel ready and prepared to share when we come back. The sort of second piece to this experience that I want you guys to talk about, you'll see in the bottom I've written like overall thoughts. And I want you to think about, okay, what and how or when would his experience relate to my life? So is there something that he did that I thought, oh, that's something I can either use in a project, that's something I can use in a classroom, that's something I can use in a future workforce? That's your opportunity to say like, okay, so this is something I took from this and I want to pull into my real life. Does everybody understand the instructions of the worksheet? If you could put a thumbs up if you understand, and then the like wavy one, I'll put the wavy one on if you have any questions that I can clarify. Okay. I don't see any waves. If you have questions, we will, we will try and pop around to help answer them. So what's gonna happen is in a moment, my wonderful friend Quentin Evans is gonna take the mic and he's going to split everybody into breakout rooms. So how it's going to work is on the right-hand side of your mural, that outline that we sort of expressed at the very beginning, you will see all these buttons, room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4, and so on. In Zoom, you will get pushed into, or you will get invited, excuse me, not pushed, we're very lovely here, into a breakout room, and it will say like you are joining room 5. So if you get the room 5, please go to your mural outline and hit the room 5 button. That will take you right to your own workspace where you and your team can collaborate and use that worksheet to connect and write down your insights. My invitation is to write down as much as you can because we actually keep these murals and we use them as resources later. So please, as you're talking, I know you're having amazing conversation, but please actually do fill out the worksheets and write down as much as you can. The other thing I will say, and I know that Quentin will reiterate, is when you get put into your breakout rooms, before we hit go, or after we hit go, excuse me, you will be asked, there's like a little pop-up that comes and it says, you've been invited to join room 6. You need to hit accept. If you don't hit accept, you won't be able to go. And this happens all the time. So please make sure to sort of look for that pop-up and hit accept when it comes. And I know it's tricky for people on tablets and iPhones and stuff, but I promise the pop-up will come and it will work. So without further ado, Q, do you want to send us? Perfect timing.
There we go. So breakout rooms are open. Just to reiterate what Laura said, if you haven't done this before, you actually have to hit accept and just note the breakout room number that you've gone into so that you can link to it on the mural. And if anybody does run into a challenge, you can just drop a note in the chat and we can try and reassign you to a room.
Are we gonna get everybody? This never happens.
It's getting close. Anybody struggling to get into a room? Anybody need a new prompt? You can just make mention in the chat if you do need a new prompt, or turn your mic on and let us know. Just a few people left.
Looks like, yeah, some folks have made their way into Mural there, which is also perfect.
Vignette, I'm just going to send you to a room right now. So you just have to click the prompt that says, can you accept going to the breakout room?
Q, how long did you send them for?
15.
Perfect. It's almost like you read my lesson plan. Normally when they come back, half of them have their videos on and it's my favorite.
Yeah.
I get to see all the beautiful faces behind the black dots. It's my sneaky. Ali, I like the fireworks. That's awesome. Is that, wait, that's not fireworks. What is that? I can't see. Is it, I want to say it's Buzz Lightyear, but I feel that's got to be wrong. So good. I love it. Thanks for sharing. So fun. Do we have everyone back now? Amazing. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you guys all had good generative conversations where you're able to kind of question some of these things and debunk some of these concepts and really try and understand how human-centered design thinking has a role in Timothy's sort of case study, as well as potentially your future moving forward. What I would love to do is I would love to open the floor for a couple minutes and just invite people to share their experiences, share their conversations. I'd love to hear from you. So if you would be willing and able, I would really love if you could come into the mic, if you could come onto the chat, if we could just really get a conversation going. Anyone? Awesome activity. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, does anyone want to share some experiences, some conversation they had in their chat?
I'm happy to speak.
Thanks,
So
Joanne.
good to see everybody. It was, of course, nice as a staff member to be able to connect with students, which was great. Our group seemed to have a easy time figuring out Mural. And of course, we brought it down to basics. So, you know, just empathizing, sort of seeking to understand, considering all avenues and all stakeholders. And then when we get to define, you know, really defining the challenges. And considering all pieces of it, right? Not just the user, but perhaps the manufacturer and each of those micro pieces. When we got to ideate, we talked about brainstorming and research and collaboration and all those wonderful things. And then in prototype, sort of the best time to make mistakes, right? And try things out, and things that can be simple can have a very powerful impact or an amazing solution. And then testing, just being sure that anybody can use it. And I think I mentioned in the chat earlier, it goes back to that there's no dumb user. I loved that there's only dumb designs or dumb products or whatever it is. So really taking it at that level of the testing. But yeah, no, it was great. It was a great activity.
Awesome. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for sharing. And like, I love everything that you said, but specifically, I want to talk about the concept of the prototype being that time to make your mistakes. We talk a lot in sort of the world about this concept of failure. And I think everyone, when I say failure, actually, let's do this right now. If you guys could all take a second, hop on the chat. When I say failure, what's the first word that pops into your brain? When you hear failure, misery, yeah. Mistake.
So that's the first step for a successful move. I think that way. So when you fail in something, that's the first step you have to take to get successful in that thing.
That's exactly it, Ali. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we talk a lot about failure as being this really negative thing. Like, so many people have this frustration, this defeated, this stress, this anxiety, disappointment, all of this not good enough. Like, these words are so spectacular. And where I would invite you to start thinking about failure is success. Failure is actually a really important part of success. So failure is about growth. It's about learning. It's about understanding how you can do a little bit better next time. So you are able to have success if you're not willing to fail, if you're not willing to learn, if you're not willing to grow. So we talk about this failure as a mindset, and how do we sort of retake this word failure to actually mean a really important part in the process to being successful. So I really, really love your team, Joanne, for being able to like have that conversation and recognize failure's really, really important and crucial place in this process. So thank you so much. So great. Yeah, and like these words are exactly it. So my invitation for you moving forward is when you think about failure, try and retake that word as this growth mindset. And how do we just learn from that and do a little bit better next time? So good. Could talk about it all day. I won't. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share from their conversation?
I just like to say that an opportunity like this is pretty cool. I am in human services, in addiction treatment and prevention post-grad, and I'm speaking with people who are in business and research development, and our thoughts in our chat were very, very different in how we looked at the different steps. So it was interesting to get that opportunity. We talk about collaboratory and how everybody within Georgia and 7 campuses, you know, can benefit from change making. It's kind of cool though to see it from a different lens. And this week, a few workshops, you know, have allowed us to do that. And just today, you know, human-centered design thinking is not my strong point, but it was really cool to talk to other people though who it is more their strong point. I came here more out of interest than to this workshop than anything, and it was just, it's kind of cool to get that opportunity and to interact with people who have a completely different thought on the whole thing.
Yeah, Elaine, thank you so much for sharing that. So much gratitude is being pushed towards your way for sort of expressing that, because first of all, I think it's pretty vulnerable to disagree with people and to have different perspectives. So really being in the space that you feel confident to do that, I think is what makes great design. What makes great outcomes. What makes sort of this whole concept of human-centered design thinking work. And I really appreciate that perspective that you're sharing on that. The other thing I would like to offer is, without, like Joanne mentioned it, I was sort of reading people's things, the word collaboration or teamwork or hearing from people or coming together has just been a really common theme, I think, amongst everybody's workshops or everybody's conversation. So really, not only is that an amazing thing to share, but it's also a really important insight to carry forward when we think about this concept of human-centered design, because we as people, me as Laura Koza, I only have the knowledge that I bring to the situation. There's no way I can have the knowledge that all 34 of you, 33 of you will bring. And the way that I can gain that knowledge is by asking and opening that dialogue and having those questions and being open to a different perspective that's not mine, and then being willing to learn from it and come together. So really, really beautifully eloquated, but also a really important stage in thinking from that human-centered lens. So thank you on a few levels. Any other sort of thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, what I will ask before sort of we move on, did anybody find this process? Did anyone have anything really kind of neat or come up that was, how do we take this process into our lives as students, as employees, as humans right now? Was anyone able to sort of have that conversation about the link? I know it's really hard. I'm asking really hard questions. These aren't just easy ones. Quickly, what I'm going to share and what I'm going to offer, 2019, which seems like about 10 years ago now, Harvard Business Review, LinkedIn, and Slack all came together to do a research study. And they were able to ask employers across Canada and North America and say, what are you looking for in employees? What skills and mindsets are you looking for? And employers would say things like, I want my employees to be able to listen and collaborate with their team members. Amazing. I want my employees to be able to be happy at work. Fantastic. I want my employees to be able to listen to the customer and then change their behavior. I want my employees to be able to come together and be sort of working minds as one together. Amazing. What all of these things are, and actually what they were able to debunk, is that every single one of those things showed up as empathy, which empathy became the #1 skill that employers were looking for in the 21st century, which is fantastic. And it's amazing. And it's so interesting because we need to start talking about these soft skills. We need to start talking about this concept of the human at the center, not only because we get things like connection, we get things like collaboration. It makes us feel good. We're having an impact. Those sorts of things all just seem to be the fringe benefit. It's because it helps us get jobs. It gives us a competitive advantage as we enter into the workforce and exit out of Georgian life. It gives us a really fascinating and unique perspective that we can offer to a project that will help us get a better grade. It gives us skills and resources and tools to be able to work with our team members when we are working on a group project. So this stuff, as much as it is this like ushy gushy, makes us feel good, helps us connect, really inspires us to have positive change in the world, it also gives us as people this amazing and important competitive advantage as we sort of enter into the next phase of our academic or professional career. So I always like to offer that because it's sometimes the thing that we don't talk about. But it's a really important thing to keep in mind as we continue to learn these skills and mindsets. Oh, lastly, I'm going on rant mode now. But the last thing I would like to offer is that for some reason, when we talk about, I don't know, you can tell I don't play basketball, but like a slam dunk, is that the thing? You are asked to do a slam dunk. If I said, hey, everybody, go do a slam dunk right now, go do it. There would be like, lots of people would probably be like, Laura, I don't know how to do that. I would trip over my own 2 feet. I know personally I would. I don't have the skills. I don't have the technique. I need to physically learn how to do that before I can show that skill. But for some reason, when it comes to soft skills, when it comes to thinking about the human at the center, when it comes to understanding the pathway of how do we build up those soft skills of empathy, collaboration, perspective taking, being able to ask really, really important questions, being open to failure, we just expect people to learn them like that. Now you know, and you should know forever and go and be amazing. These things are also practices. You need to be willing to practice these skills and mindsets to be able to get a little bit better at them tomorrow. This is not a, hey, you've been given this really quick and brief introduction, so now you are all experts. This is, you've been given a little bit of a brief and quick introduction to help you start thinking about this and think about something a little bit differently today than you did yesterday. And if you can just act like that every single day, I'm just going to do this a little bit differently tomorrow than I did today, then all of a sudden you're really starting to flex these muscles and build these soft skills. So that's my final plug, I promise. Any other sort of questions, comments, excitements, jokes, whatever about any of this? I see Joanne's popping in amazing stuff in the chat, so it's so good. Yeah, about this topic before we move on. Okay, you guys are a quiet bunch today. Is everybody still here? Thumbs up. We got a couple. Okay, good. Fantastic. Just got to make sure. So lastly today, I would like to take the second to invite you into a concept that is really near and dear to my heart. So this concept of intentions or intentionality, I like to think of intentionality or intentions as that bridge between learning and action. So we can sit here all day long and talk about the things that we've learned. We can share new insights with you. We can have different conversations about different ways to think about things. But how do we actually take the time to pull those things into, can you guys hear my dog scratching in the background? Or is that just me? Sorry about that. How do you take the time to sort of take those learnings, those actions, those insights, and actually act on them? Actually think, actually do something about those. So when we talk about intentions, it's about What's the purpose behind my actions that foster this learning that I just had? So today, my invitation for you is to take a look at these intentions. So we have these cards called creativity cards, and they're just meant to think about how are different ways I can act on this concept. So you might see, I will create, I will take action, I will embrace change, I will express joy, I will inspire. These inherently are all I will statements because they're not, hey, tomorrow I might do this, or I should, or I could. It's about actually taking that power in yourself to say, I am going to take action on this thing. In that spirit, what I would invite you to do is everyone to take a Post-it note and to write your name on it. Super important that you write your name because you are claiming that action as your own. When you write your name on it, I want you to write your own I will statement that sort of fosters one of those 5 there. So I will create, maybe it's I will make dinner. You are creating a meal for you to enjoy and to eat. So what I would invite is take about 5 minutes. If you could sort of grab a Post-it note, write your name on it, write your own I will statement, your own intention of what you will do to sort of foster, bridge that gap from learning to action. Yeah, so good. Oh yeah, thanks. As you guys are doing that, I'm gonna let the dog in. Hopefully she'll amazing. We'll just give another minute or so. I'm seeing people are still typing. Guys, these are beautiful. As you're taking the time to write these, I'm not going to read them out because they are quite personal, but I do want to honor everybody who's taken the time to write one because they're absolutely beautiful, and I'm really grateful for you taking the time to do that. Okay, you know what, I was going to move on, but I see again we've sort of got another flurry, so I'll give it another 30 seconds before we move away from this. Just to give everyone a chance to finish up. And I thank everyone for taking the time to write one. Whoever's making pizza, that's the only one I will say, like, let me know your address and I can come pick it up at any time. I'm a big pizza lover. Awesome. Amazing. So as we sort of wrap up this workshop, I think we're going to wrap up a bit early, which never happens, but I hope that'll be the gift of time for everybody as we maybe the extra time you need in your week to practice one of these intentions. What I want to offer is a couple quick things on the mural. So you will see in the top right corner up here, I don't want to summon everyone because they're working on their stuff, but hang tight, I'm going to. You will notice in the top right corner, there is, excuse me, there's a section there that is filled with resources of extra links if you are interested in this topic. So if something that I have said, if this concept of human-centered design interests you, there's a couple extra links there that you can follow. They will be posted in the chat momentarily, which can just offer some more insight, can offer some interesting different point of views to help you sort of get your brain wrapped around this concept. The other thing I would like to offer is that if you are looking to get a little bit more involved with the center, you will see about in the middle here, there's a little bit of a quick reference guide of how can I get more involved. So at the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation, we have tons of amazing engagements. One of them is called Change the Now. So Change the Now is an opportunity to engage in the human-centered design thinking framework. Sorry, the Change the Now challenge is an opportunity to engage in the human-centered design thinking framework, in which you are given tools and resources to support you through each step of this framework. This year, this Change the Now will be launched in January, and we will be looking at the Sustainable Development Goals and asking as many people as we can to contribute to the solution of a Sustainable Development Goal. So if this is something that interests you, if this framework is something that interests you, please feel free to go and make your profile. You'll see the changethenow.ca is the link to go do that. In there, you can make a profile, a changemaker profile, and that will be your first step sort of engaging in this framework. If you want to put together a team and come sort of work together to contribute to this, we really encourage it. And it's a great way to leverage the tools and resources from the Center for Changemaking and Social Innovation using the human-centered design thinking process. Again, lots of big words, we love them, but it's an important thing that we would like to invite you to contribute to. Other than that, yeah, if anybody has any questions, comments, excitements, jokes, anything, please feel free to hang on, as we would love to take the time to answer them. We hope that you guys had an opportunity to learn, engage, and sort of share a mindset that might have been new to you. And I hope you guys engage in something in the rest of the week that brings you joy and excitement. And I really appreciate you for being here with us today. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Quickly, a huge thank you to my two wonderful co-pilots, Ross and Quentin, who have just been like making this all go incredibly seamlessly behind the scenes with the texts, with the chats. Couldn't be more grateful. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice week.
Bye.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, madam. This is Khalid. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. If you're trying to leave, which I didn't realize that some people don't know how to leave the sessions, you can either click the red button at the bottom that just says leave, or you can just close the window and you will automatically leave.
I have one question, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely. How can I help you?
Yeah, I mean, if I want to join another session, let's say after 2 days, 3 days, is it possible? Should I book again?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's obviously tons of opportunities to engage with the Changemaker in Residency Week. If there's another session that interests you, please take the time to register for it. You do have to register for our sessions, and that's how you get the link to join them. So yeah. Do you have the link to register?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome. Yeah, awesome. As people are sort of filing out, is there any other questions we can offer insights to? Feel free to come off mute to answer or to ask in the chat, to throw your video, to throw your mic on, however we can answer for you, we would be happy to. I'm really sorry if I say any of your names wrong. Hey, Laura, can you please tell me how to check? Oh, yes. Okay, this is a question we get at almost the end of every session, so I will answer it verbally for everybody. Questions for how to check your innovation capital or your change making score. So this is something that is actually done manually by members of the Center for Change Making and Social Innovation. So it will not happen automatically. And like you, I promise all the data is tracked and everybody that attends sessions will get their innovation capital, but I wouldn't expect to see it in your profile until after Changemaker and Residency Week, because our team has to go in individually and put those numbers in. So I recognize that everyone is excited and we're so excited to see the buzz that it's generating. But we ask for a little bit of patience as we enter all of those numbers in, and you can expect them sort of the week after Changemaker and Residency Week is complete. Does that answer your question? Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Joanne. Any other questions we can answer? Awesome. Okay. Thank you for coming. That's great. We're so grateful to have you here. How can we get the leaderboard score? That's the exact same sort of concept of the innovation capital question. So the exact same. I promise you will get your innovation capital. I promise you will get your leaderboard score. Just, yeah, a little bit of patience as we make sure to enter all the numbers. We have a really robust tracking system, so the data is tracked. We do recognize your presence in these workshops, and the capital, the score will come, we promise, but we ask you for a little bit of patience until at least after Changemaker and Residency Week is finished. Awesome, yeah, thank you. I appreciate, yeah, getting the collaboration here in the chat, so that's fantastic. Any other questions? If there is no other questions, we are going to sort of start to remove you from this call with love. So please make sure if you have a question, you've got about 10 seconds to ask it here. Otherwise, you're going to be removed from the call.